Hey guys, welcome back to the MCU HQ, and this is it. This is my spoiler review for Captain Marvel, and man am I going to have a lot to say in this video, so let's just dive right into it so this video is not any longer than it needs to be. So if you remember, in my non-spoiler review, I said there is a plot twist, not really a plot twist, there's a scene in the movie that should have been handled a lot better than it was, and a scene that felt like it was only thrown in there because they felt inclined to put it in there, and that was Fury losing an eye. Did not go the way it should have. It should have been like a Skrull impersonates someone and cuts Fury, or even the joke Coulson made in the post-credit scene about a Kree burning his eye out. But no, that's not what happens. The cat, or the Flurkin, gets upset and scratches his eye, and it's like that. And he's like, it's just a scratch. And Talos is in the back like, it's not. It wasn't funny. They played it off as a funny moment, but it wasn't. This should have been an epic moment. We even hear Fury say in Winter Soldier, the last time he trusted someone, he lost an eye. He should have lost it having faith in someone, and they turned on him. It should not have been a cat getting upset and scratching his eye. Did not like that. And then they made it worse, because Coulson brings him a case full of eyes, and I don't know what they were doing with that scene, but I did not like it. Anyway, that's a way to start off a spoiler review, isn't it? Anyway, let's talk about my favorite scene in the movie, which I wrote Fury's eye loss with a frown next to it, and then I wrote this with a smile next to it. It's when Carol finally embraces her power and she goes binary. Now this full scene would consist of her finally taking off the thing when she's talking to the Supreme Intelligence, and then the entire time up through when she goes to fight Star Force. That entire few-minute section, even, I'll throw in the fight with Star Force, because she was using that power that entire time. So however long that was my favorite scene in the movie. Because it starts with Annette Bening, whose character I just forgot the name of. I know she plays Supreme Intelligence, but what her actual character name was. She shoots this beam at Carol, and Carol just takes it, and she's going at her. And then they fight for a bit, and then you see Carol break out of her restraints back on the ship. She busts out, she glows, eyes glow. The scene from the end of the first trailer, we see that scene, and then she throws everyone out of the way, and then she runs really fast, saves Maria and Fury, and she's glowing, and it looks awesome. And then she's put the Tesseract in the lunch, or take the Tesseract, and then I got this. And then she goes and fights every member of Star Force at the same time, and it was sick. That's the scene I was talking about where I got chills for just a solid 5 minutes straight. It was such a good scene, and I'm really pumped to see what they do in the future with that. Now let's talk about my favorite character. I do have some character stuff reserved for the end, but I want to talk about Talos now, because he was definitely my favorite character in the movie. He was great. He had great humor. I talked a ton about this. He'll be yeah. Someone will say something, it's really dumb, and he'll just slowly nod his head, and it's hilarious. When Fury lost his eye, even though I hated it, Talos just sitting there like this, it was great. And he does it 4 times in the movie. But it's cool too, because the Skrulls are set up as the villain the entire time, and then when they finally go to Marvel's sanctuary thing up in space, and you realize he has a family, he has people he cares about, and one of the best plot twists of the movie was the fact that, no, the Skrulls aren't the real bad guys here. The Kree are the villains. The Skrulls are the ones we should be caring about. And by the end of the movie, yeah, I did care about the Skrulls. Which is the thing that now, if a Skrull is an Avenger, we're not going to like a Skrull as much as they really made us like Skrulls in this movie. I feel like that was one of the movie's greatest accomplishments, is totally being oh, you thought the Skrulls were the villains? Nope, the Kree are the villains and the Skrulls are the ones that we're rooting for. And the trailers made it seem like Carol wasn't going to pick a side, but no, by the end of the movie it's clear. She is fighting the Kree and fighting for Skrull freedom. And I thought that was a cool twist. But yeah, the Talos was great. All the Skrull stuff was great. Like I said, my non-spoiler, every time a Skrull transforms, it looks cool, and they show like every single one in the movie. Thing is, Talos survived, and I don't know what a Skrull's lifespan is, but we might see him again, and I hope we do, because Marvel has recently been having their characters survive. Thanos lived. Well, Abomination's still kicking, but I doubt we'll see him again. Red Skull's still alive. Thanos is still alive. Talos is still alive. Ghost is still alive. There's so many villains they're keeping alive, and it's great that they're doing that. But anyway, so let's move on to continuity here. Because this was one of my big fears with the movie, is that continuity, they might screw it up. And specifically, I mean Coulson and the Kree. Now, he does name drop Kree at the end of this movie when he's like, is it true that a Kree burned your eye out? But I was fine with that, because they'd be like, oh yeah, we got this alien called a Kree. But the thing they could have messed up is in the first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Sif is talking about alien life or something, and something comes up of the Kree, and Coulson doesn't do anything. He's like, I've never interacted with a Kree before. And everyone's like, well, if Coulson interacts with a Kree in this movie, then that'll mess up the continuity of the entire MCU. But he doesn't. He interacts with a Skrull. He knows what a Kree is, but he has never interacted with a Kree up to that point. And I feel like having Coulson as only a cameo role really helps that, because there's so much stuff that happens in the MCU that Coulson's crucial to that you can really mess up by having his character do a lot of stuff in the movie. And so I'm glad he was a cameo and Nick Fury was important. And also, the Tesseract. If you watch Captain America the First Avenger, Red Skull gets the Tesseract. And that goes into the ocean at the end of the movie. Howard Stark picks it up. And we don't see it again up until 2012 in the Avengers when S.H.I.E.L.D. had it. But in the end of this movie, they're going for the core or something. It was like crucial to power stuff. A lot of alien gibberish. But they go into the ship and they're like, yo, we need to get the power core. So we got Fury, Maria, Carol, Talos, all of them in there looking for it. And there's just a little box sitting there. And they're like, that's the core? And Carol's like, in her notes she said it's the Tesseract, and she grabs it. And at first I was like, wait a minute. There was something with the Tesseract in between First Avenger and the Avengers. But there wasn't, which is cool. And then the movie ends with, yep, S.H.I.E.L.D. having it. Goose ate it. And yeah, so that was cool. I like that. Now the other thing that's not a continuity thing that I do want to talk about while I'm here before I forget it, which I totally just forgot it. I'm trying to remember it. How Fury got the name The Avengers. The movie ends and he's typing up something. He's talking about getting powerful people. Basically, his speech about what the Avengers Initiative is. And I can't remember what it's called. It's the something project. And he looks at a picture of Carol in her plane. It says, Captain Carol, and then in quotes, Avenger Danvers. And then he looks at it, he erases the word and retypes Avenger, so it says the Avenger Initiative or whatever. And then they play the Avengers theme, and then we cut to credits. And so many people hated that. They're like, really? That's how you got the name Avengers? Why couldn't it have just come up naturally? Why do you have to get based off Captain Marvel? But I think that's great. I like that idea, that he's like, oh, that's a cool name. You know what? That's what we're going to call our group of super people. And I feel like with most of this movie, I'm in the minority here, but I rather enjoyed that. Okay, moving on. Bad plot twists. Here we go. The Yon-Rogg reveal. Now, everyone knew that Jude Law was playing Yon-Rogg. What not everyone knew was that Annette Bening was actually Mar-Vell. Will you look at that? Not expect that. I thought Jude Law would be Yon-Rogg posing as Mar-Vell, but no, Annette Bening was Mar-Vell, and Jude Law was Yon-Rogg. But here's the thing. The Yon-Rogg moment should have been a huge revelation in the movie. And I'm not even going to lie, I don't remember how it went down. It's not something where they're sitting there talking and it suddenly hits Carol and she's all upset. She's like, these are the people that I've lived with for 6 years, I've grown attachment to, and these are bad people. It goes something like this. "Oh, Carol, that guy's not our friend. His name's Yon-Rogg. He killed Mar-Vell." "What? Let's go fight him." That is an accurate representation of how it goes down. In no way does it feel like it's natural. It feels like it's so forced, and that just hits them. It's such a 180 too. You go the entire time, you're like, Talos is the villain, Talos is the villain. And then Talos infiltrates Maria's house, you're like, oh, it's going down. And then like, they talk about Flirk and stuff for a bit. They sit at a table, and he's like, your mentor's a bad guy. And there's nothing on Carol's face that would ever be like she was upset. She's like, okay, well, I guess we're fighting him. And then even in the final fight, there's no emotion whatsoever. She just plows her way through Starforce, goes to fight Yon-Rogg, punches him a couple times, and then they get down to the surface, right? And this is the moment that should have had emotion. And this is the part I was talking about that got really funny, because it's really serious. They've all got, she's got like her powers going, Yon-Rogg's got his gun out and stuff. And then the music's going, and you know it's coming too. The way the music's cranking up, and that just shuts off, and he puts his weapons away. He's like, I'm so proud of you. You've come such a long way. And it's hilarious. And then, this is how it goes. There's no emotion there whatsoever. He's sitting there, and it's a callback to the start of the movie, when he's like, the only way you can ever best me is when you come to peace with, you know, all your powers and stuff, and he's going through this, and it's really cool. And then Carol just shoots him. I'm like, that could have been such an emotional moment if they're going back and forth, they're talking, and then she decides not to use her powers, and the two of them just go at it, just as brutal as they can. Would have been awesome, but that's not what we get. Instead, Carol just shoots Yon-Rogg, and then puts him in his ship, and she's like, yo, you're going to give a message back to the Kree. Here's the funny part. He's like, I can't go back empty-handed. And she's like, oh no, you won't. You're taking a message. And then she sends his ship off. He could control his ship and not go back, but he does. Although I think it might have been he'd have to go back anyway, and she should have just killed him. But still, I found that kind of funny. But yeah, the Yon-Rogg reveal was not what I expected it to be. I was just sitting there too. I was like, oh, hey, Jude Law's the villain. Well, look at that. Anyway, that's enough ranting about Yon-Rogg. Let's talk about the entirety of the third act, because the third act was great. It was definitely better than Ant-Man and the Wasp, for sure, but not as good as Infinity Wars. But I'd say I'd probably start when Talos, I'll never get his name right, when they're talking at the table. Because I'd say when he gets to Maria's house and they're standing up, all have their weapons out, I'd say that's the second act. I'd say it transitions when they're like all sitting at the table talking about what's going on, and Carol, and they're going through the revelations and all that. I'd say that's when it starts, and that goes all the way up through the end. And here's the thing, most people say Carol's a Mary Sue, and while sure, I will admit, most of the stuff that happens in the movie she does, it doesn't feel like she is. It feels like they're being comic accurate, and yeah, she is really powerful. She grabs a giant missile and throws it back at other missiles, but never once was I like, they're only doing that to make Captain Marvel look like the strongest. No, it felt like a natural character progression for her, which I'm going on a tangent from the third act here, but I want to mention this now, is that while some people can see her as Mary Sue, and I won't argue that, I don't think it is. I think it's just the way her character was intended to be written. Because she does some wicked cool stuff. When she learns to fly, it was great. That was my favorite. That was one of my favorite shots. Is she's falling to the ground and she's freaking out. She doesn't know what she's going to do. And at one point she just sits still. She T-poses and her eyes close. And then they glow, and then you see her start to hit the ground, and it cuts. And then like a second later, when Fury's getting chased by a ship, you just see her fly up through the ship and destroy it. And then she flies up towards Ronan's fleet. Now, I don't recall seeing it. That scene in the end of the trailer where she's got her mask on and she's shooting all the ships. I feel like I don't remember seeing that. It might have been there and I just missed it or something. But there is a space battle, and the space battle's really cool. And it's based off Captain Marvel comic, which I'm actually going to talk about at the end of this review. But yeah, third act was great. Now, let's talk about, how did I word it in my non-spoiler review? Hang on, I'm flipping the page.